More Democrats voting in the Texas Senate race last night than in any midterm primary in more than 20 years. But Republicans actually set a new midterm primary turnout record. Some conservatives have said they're worried about the challenges from Democrats in the traditionally red state, but analysts say they expect the GOP to hang on to all statewide offices in November. Let's bring in our panel. Christy Setzer is a Democratic strategist, the president and founder of New Heights Communications, and the former Iowa press secretary for Al Gore's presidential campaign. Evan Siegfried is a Republican strategist. He previously held communications positions with the Rudy Giuliani Presidential Committee and the United Nations Department of Public Information. Welcome to you both. And Christy, I guess really nobody's arguing that I mean, the Democrats, the enthusiasm in Texas was tremendous. But when you're talking about Texas, you need a lot more enthusiasm to win in that state. Is that a fair assessment?
That is a very fair assessment. It was a good night for Democrats, even a great night for Democrats. But in Texas, you need something more than a great night. You need a phenomenal night. And it was not that. We saw more than 1 million Democrats vote in the primaries. That's phenomenal. But it's not as good in terms of percentage as we saw in 2006, which is probably what we'll want to see in November. That was a disastrous year for Republicans in the midterms. It was a very good year for Democrats.
And to kind of underline her point there, Evan, I mean, you look at the races, you look at Ted Cruz. I mean, he's going to do very well in his race, right? And then you look at the races like, Jeb Bush's son, George P. Bush, did surprisingly well down there. I mean, were you surprised at the turnout for him?
I wasn't surprised at the turnout for George P. Bush. He's done an incredibly good job as Texas Land Commissioner, and he can theoretically use that as a springboard to other offices in Texas if he should so choose. Now, what I was surprised about was how Beto O'Rourke, who is actually very popular in the progressive circles in Texas and nationally at this point, he underperformed Wendy Davis 4 years ago. Wendy Davis got 79% of the Democratic vote, and he underperformed at 61.5%. When I saw that, I said, whoa, wait a second. And who were his challengers? His challengers were no names with no real money. However, on the flip side, there is evidence of Democratic enthusiasm that should worry Republicans. 67% in terms of the turnout for Democrats, it was 67% of what Republicans were. Ordinarily, during midterm years like this, it's about in the low to mid 40s. So that is positive for Democrats. And at the same time, I was also surprised to see Ted Cruz immediately launch an attack ad against Beto O'Rourke. You don't do that if you're a campaign unless you are actually very worried and it's much closer than it seems.
And he makes a good point, Christy, because Beto O'Rourke, I mean, you had Ted Cruz came after him. He was using his real first name, calling him Robert, and these ads and saying, look, this guy's going to come after your guns. Right. He's going to open up the borders. Right. I get it. But the whole thing is you got Ted Cruz going after him hard, and Beto O'Rourke really didn't perform as well as a lot of people thought he would perform.
Yeah, I mean, it remains to be seen, right? On one hand, he has way out fundraised Ted Cruz already, which is pretty amazing. On the other hand, that statewide, nut is still a difficult one for Democrats to crack in Texas. So, but what we did see, which I think was, again, which was really heartening, was not just the overall enthusiasm and the number of Democrats who came to the polls, but we really had some interesting successes and firsts in the states in terms of diversity. So there were a couple districts in which we now know Texas will send a Latina woman to Congress because it was, heavily Democratic districts where a Latina woman won. We also know that a record number of women came out who are running for offices, challenging, their first-time candidates, they're not incumbents, et cetera. That's pretty exciting to see as well. And I think it actually comports with what we're seeing across the country, which is, the enthusiasm is coming by and large from Democrats, from women, and to some extent from people of color.
Yeah, and it might not just be one. I mean, Evan, we might have two Latina females, right? Latinas going in as congressional members of Texas. So this is a big deal. Women did well in Texas last night. So there seems to be, Evan, a little bit of movement in a very deep red state.
Yes, what I've been seeing, and this is nationally, is that white suburban married women, whom we Republicans used to give us the House and the Senate from 2010 on, have started to move away from the Republican Party in 2017 and 2018. They helped to switch many races from the local to national levels in all of the elections last year, the special elections and special elections this year. That, while we have never been able to capture the women's vote as a party, that is the one reliable area. If you even flip that by a few percentage points, the House of Representatives and the majority we Republicans have will be in jeopardy. But at the same time, we're also seeing millennials, which is the second key group here. Millennials are the largest section of the electorate, and they don't identify with Republicans. Normally, they don't vote, and in 2016, they didn't. But they're showing signs of actually wanting to vote. 62% of millennials right now are looking forward to voting in the midterms in 2018. By comparison,
and they will not be voting for Republicans. Right?
And
that's that's the whole thing. Is that's a problem there. But the truth is, you know, I got to say, Christy, you don't really need a lot of money in Texas. What you need is to have played for the Dallas Cowboys, because if you played for the Dallas Cowboys, you got some turnout, right? Colin Allred did much better than expected, had no television ads, really didn't raise a whole bunch of money, so that was kind of surprising.
Celebrity is often helpful. But yeah, look, I mean, again, when we're talking nationally, all of the momentum is it is a pink wave, by which I mean, you know, women. Will it be enough in Texas? I don't know, but things are looking pretty good.
Yeah, that's the mantra. Will it be enough in Texas? Christy Setzer, Evan Siegfried, thank you both.